Hello everyone, I'm back from holidays, so ready to get in some good tutorials. Next week we'll be doing video outros for YouTube videos. So this week we're doing muzzle flares, and this is how you do it. First you need the original footage, like I have here, and on top of that we are going to add the flare itself. On top of that we're going to add a glow. On top of that we're going to add the indirect lighting, and we'll finish off with the smoke. Okay, so now we're going to create the flare, and that is very simple. You just add a UV sphere. Default settings are fine. I'm going to go to front view, press Ctrl Alt numpad 0 in order to bring the camera to the view I'm currently in. We do not need that light, so I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to press 5 to go into orthographic view. Good. I'm going to select the top vertex. I'm going to press O to turn on proportional editing and just move that up into a cone shape. And that's pretty perfect. Okay, next I'm going to press Ctrl 2 in order to add a subdivision surface modifier. I'm then going to add a displace modifier. This currently does not work, and the solution to that is very simple. I'm going to add the current material and turn off the texture because we don't need it. It'll render out purple otherwise, since that is purple. What we do want is this to be clouds, because now if we go back to this, select that texture, there we go. Very nice. However, muzzle flares aren't always like that. It's pointy at one end. It should be like that. So that's very simple to solve out. I'm just going to select everything. I'm going to go to the object data panel, add a vertex group, press tab, assign all the vertices to that group. Then we can go back to the modifier panel, select that vertex group. Now if we go to weight paint mode, you can see everything is red. I'm going to change this to something lower. Press F to turn up the brush size, and then just paint the top of it. Okay, and maybe even a bit more, just for the very top. And there we go, that's the basic muzzle flare. Just get it exactly the way I want. That's good enough. Okay. So now that that's done, we can go back to object mode, and we need to finally add a second subsurf modifier. There we go. And that's what it looks like. I'm going to set it to smooth so it just looks a bit nicer. Okay. Change the type to volume and change the emission to be quite high. We want to have a yellowish tint. That looks nice. Press F12 to render it out, and you can see what it looks like. That's good. Okay, make the background black. Render again. Very nice. Okay. So we are now at the right point to add our footage. So I want to only be able to view it in the camera. I'll open that footage, which is here. And I know I want my character to shoot at frame 50. I'm just going to move this out of the way and click on the muzzle of the gun. And if you press Shift S, just move the selection to cursor. then just rotate it in the way you want. Now this muzzle flare is obviously too big. Good rule of thumb is to make the muzzle flare about the same size as your gun. So that looks about right. Everything's good. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first scene done. I'm going to call that muzzle flare. No, just flare. Saves time. Not really. Anyway, full copy. This is going to be the glow. And that's very simple. I'm just going to add an icosphere. We do not need the flare anymore, so we'll delete that. I'm going to scale this down to make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to go to settings. Just leave it the way it is. Turn on transparency. And leave that the way it is. We'll be changing the transparency settings afterwards. One thing I do need to do though is change the emission to be high as well. Now if we render that out, you get that. Just add subsurf modifier to make it look a bit nicer. And there we go. Okay. That's 2 parts of it done. Third part, smoke. And my least favorite part. I'm going to add a plane, align it to view, press tab, subdivide it twice, well, number of cuts 2. You don't want to subdivide twice, you just want 2 cuts. I'm going to select all 4 corners and scale them in. There, that's good. Okay. It's obviously too big, so I'm going to scale it down. And I'm also going to face it in the right direction. Just getting in the position I want. And that looks about right. One thing, yeah, I'll leave that for the moment, I'll come back to it afterwards. I'm going to add a quick smoke and press Shift S, selection to cursor, and then press Alt S to make it the same scale as before. I'm going to scale it on the Y-axis to be quite long, and on the X-axis to be pretty wide as well. And then from the front it's fine the way it is. Maybe a bit bigger. I really am losing my voice. And if we now press play, you get that. So, just like my previous tutorials, first problem is that it's not appearing at the right place, so we need a particle system. Particle system is very simple. Change the frame to be 50 when it starts, and 50, well, make that 51 actually, and end it at 52. Lifetime should be 4. Geometry velocity should be at 5. And under field weights, I'm going to turn off gravity so that it goes straight forward instead of falling. If you want, you can add a little bit of gravity, but full weight is not good. It won't work properly. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. Okay, so having that particle, having that, oh, I want that one. And for you, you don't get a particle system. Okay, change that, the source from mesh to particle system, and size is fine. Velocity, initial velocity, I'm going to change to 0.2. Initial velocity just makes the smoke go out at the same velocity as the particles, except when set lower than 1, then it doesn't have as much strength. So, if we play that back now, you'll get this. First problem is that it's not working properly in that sense. Second thing is that it's black. So we'll solve the first problem out first, and that's very simple. I'm just going to change this to a really low number like 5, and then just play it back again, and that's it. Now I should bring it back up to 1000. It works fine. Now if I just go back a bit, you can see it's just like a circle. It doesn't look very realistic. There is a few different solutions to that, but the one I like is pretty simple and it uses an effect that has been used before in this tutorial already. I'm going to use a displace modifier, and I'll just use the texture that was there before. I also need to add material for this. I want it to be transparent, so just set the alpha and specular under transparency to 0. Transparency. And there we go. This I'm going to add subsurf modifier, bring it above, and I'm going to bring the particle system below the to the very bottom. We might need to just refresh it. No, it works fine. That's good. Okay, so as you can see, it looks a lot better. Now, one important thing to do quickly is if you select the domain, I'm just going to change dissolve to 15, yeah, having that turned on, and that'll just make it a bit more realistic. And it's creating really cool swirl effects and everything. So that is looking swell. Before I add in the light to change the color of the smoke, there is one thing that I would like to do, and that is move everything forward. So just having those two selected, I'm just gonna, I don't need to scale them up, that's not gonna help. I'm going to press G, Y, to move it up a bit closer. And then go to frame 50 and just move back into position. And that just helps sell it so much more. There we go. So, light. I want to add sunlight. Go to top view, rotate in any direction. I don't want to be that far, I want to be over here. I'm going to change the strength to be 5 and bring it up a bit. I'm going to make a duplicate of this and rotate it in the opposite direction. It doesn't need to be perfect. Go to top view, Okay, and change that to 0.2 and give it a slightly blue tint because shadows are blue, believe it or not. And there you go. That adds light to it all of a sudden. Okay, so there are a couple of little things we still need to do, and first of all, that is save this file. That's really important. Luckily, my version of Blender is very stable. I don't know why. Yes, this is a re-recording. The 5th. Once I've done that, I can get ready to bake. So I'm going to turn up the divisions to be something a bit higher. I'll make it, well, I'll try it 64 first, and I can always bring it higher. I'll turn on adaptive domains so we can see. Yeah, we don't need any higher than that. That is absolutely fine. Okay. Turn on smoke high resolution. Bring that to 3. Apparently, if you change the noise to FTT, it works better for some situations. It works better for fire and hopefully this. I haven't messed around with it much, but what better time to try it than right in the middle of a tutorial recording? Okay, just a couple of little tips I picked up. Save this again one more time. Just make sure I don't want this to crash. Under smoke cache, we should be ready to bake. Yeah, looks like it. Okay. I don't want it to start at frame 50. I want it to start at frame. Oh yeah, I want to start at frame 50, 48, just a little bit before, in order to make sure it follows all the way through. Actually, turn off high resolution just quickly, so we can see what frame it's finished at. And that is frame 111. I'll bring it to 112. An extra frame will not make too much difference. Okay, so now we're ready to bake. Just click bake. Oh, turn back on smoke high resolution. Just click bake and that should be good. I'll see you when it's finished. Okay, it's now finished. I'm not going to try it out. Oh, fine. That looks really, really good. Okay. So, now that we're done that, we are ready to go on to the last part, which is node editing. It's always the longest part. And I just added a new scene. I'm going to call that compositing. If I can spell right. Bring that up to 100%. All the other ones were set at 100% because I just have it set to make sure it does that. Current output is the same as my video, so that's fine. And we just want to change this to node editor. Render, use nodes, backdrop, auto render. I'm going to make 2 duplicates of this. And I'm also going to add a viewer node. I'm going to go to frame 51. 50. Okay, actually there are a couple more things than I thought that still need to be done. I'll make this the glow, this the smoke, and this the flare. We are also going to add in a mask. Since I completely forgot about that, turn on anti-alias. We also need to add the indirect lighting, and we need to make sure that the flare turns off and on at the right moment. And this can all be done inside the node editor actually, but I prefer to do it manually. even though it takes longer and it doesn't make any difference. But why not? Okay, so I'm going to go to movie clip editor. We don't currently have a movie clip, so I'll find that raw video, flare, and I'm going to change it from tracking to mask. Add a new mask, and it doesn't need to be very precise. I'm just going to control click around the area that I want to have indirect lighting. There's no point putting it on the gun, actually. Just think about it logically. Where would the light hit the actor? And it doesn't matter if it's vector or not either. And just press Alt-C to join that back up at the end. And that's good. That's everything. Okay. It's pretty much that simple. There's 2 frames in between, but actually I might just get rid of these. There's no point, since we are going to be blurring it. And if you want, you can animate it, but for the amount of time, it really isn't worth it. So we can now go back to the node editor, add that mask, and we also have one more input, and that is the video itself. That's going to be 134 frames for me. Obviously different for you. And there we go. Just click to render each one out. Yeah, okay. See that button there? That's to render it out. That camera button. Yeah, okay. They're all good. Oh, actually, one thing I did find is that for the smoke, making the background the way it is doesn't work that well. So I actually go under render and under layer turned sky off, and all that does is makes it transparent. There you go, it's transparent. And that means you have an alpha over node instead of a mixed node, and that's pretty much the only difference. However, first thing I'm going to do is add a mixed node, believe it or not. Bring that into the viewer node so I can see what I'm doing. I don't want this to be mixed, I want it to be add. Frame 50. Yeah, I'm just gonna animate the flare inside the node editor. It's easier. I don't know why I haven't done it before. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna need a blur node. I'm gonna add that onto the the render layer. Change it to fast Gaussian and set that to be 5 by 5. and as you can see, creates this nice little effect. Just makes it look more realistic. Okay. Next is add a glare node, and that'll be for this. I'm going to duplicate this. And add a color balance node, which is under color. And that's not it. Color balance. Give it a yellow tint. Whoa, whoa. Still don't understand gamma. That should be, doesn't matter. If I change that to be 2 streaks, not 6, 2. Yeah, there's no point doing that really, is there? It was the glow I wanted to do anyway. I just wanted to try that out really quickly. Because, as I said before, when's the best time to do that? On the final recording, obviously. And that just makes it, that just gives it a bit of a glow, which makes it nice. I'm going to add in a blur node. Another one. Actually, I can just copy this one. Press Shift D and bring that up a lot. Okay, that's good. I'll move this up higher because I want this to be beside this. Now I'm going to duplicate this. Yeah, and leave it as add. I'm also going to duplicate this. And I don't want to add it to that. Though it creates the right effect, I'm going to add this. Yeah. Twice. Only one is going to go through the color bounce node. And plug this back in here. Now, if I add this on, yeah, this should probably have been an alpha overnode. Ah, best time to make your mistakes. Now I'll get the 2 images right. No, into factor, into image. What's wrong? Oh, right. Of course. Okay, so what I did is I just added an invert node to make sure the mask was in the right direction and used another alpha overnode. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of problems, and they're very simple to fix. You just want this to be a bit brighter. And to do that, it's very simple. You just add the hue saturation value node. If I can get it to connect. And turn up the value. Still doesn't look that convincing, and this is what's going to change the entire thing. Probably not, but anyway. This is what will help a lot, and that is a blur node. Set that to 5, and there we go. That's the best you're going to get anyway. You can always mess around with the mask again. I'm probably going to go and do that afterwards. I just wanted to show you really quickly how to do it. So the final thing we need to do is the smoke. And that is pretty straightforward as well. We need an alpha over node again. Plug that in. Yeah, I'm not going to convert pre-multiplied. Not this time. That looks fine. And if you want, you can give it a yellowy tint as well. Just to make it nice. Just pressing Shift D. Now it doesn't need to be nearly as strong. Just turn down the factor. It's too red. Too green. There, whatever. And that's pretty much the basic effect. So, the last thing we need to do, finally, is animate the flare. And that is very simple. We just need a mix node. Put that in there. And the other source is going to be the image. Change that to mix. And basically, at frame 49, the factor will be 1. If you hover your cursor over it, press I, that adds a keyframe. 50, yeah, I'm going to add another keyframe at 50. At 51, I'll make that 0. And then just move another 2 frames forward. And I'll make that 1 again. Yeah. And just press I. And there we go. One thing is to move the smoke after that. And you can also animate the factor of that, but I'll just get rid of it because I'm lazy. And the speed of this tutorial was no faster than any other that I've made. And that's it. If you go back 2 frames, it's like that. Go forward 2 frames. There you go. Something went wrong somewhere. Right. I'm sorry about this. I didn't want this to happen either. So right, that doesn't need to be there. That goes straight into that. There we go. Right there. Everything you need. Change that back to add. Yeah. Okay, now we are done. If you want, you can tweak it and make sure that the mask looks a bit better than I did, and then just render it out. Just remember to save beforehand, and that's it. Okay, so next week I'll be doing a tutorial on how to do a video outro, which looks a bit like this.